Our next speaker is Mr. David Lee, and David has got a wealth of experience in various areas, and more importantly, recently he has been with SIRS, the Singapore Institute of Retail Studies, taken a lead in digital commerce to look at how digital technology can aid the retailers in Singapore to adopt technology and to see how things can move forward with them. So without much to do and in interest of time, I'm going to hand you over to David. David, please take over.
Right. Thank you, Oliver. Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. Thank you, APARA and Spill Exhibit Singapore Press Holding for having me. Right. You have heard so much about from Anson and also Dr. Ning Soon. So what I'm going to share with you is that going beyond Industry 4.0, going beyond automations, what do you need to do? What you need to do is to think about Business 5.0, mindset change for innovation and creativities. Before I go into the subjects, I'd like to introduce my organizations, Singapore Institute of Retail Studies. We are the national appointed anchor provider for retail industry to lead the digital transformations in terms of trainings and also consultancies. So if you look at point one, we are the only IHL, I'm very proud to say that we house all the competitive global digital commerce leaders under one roof for latest digital trainings. So we work directly with them. And point number two is that we are also working with gig workers to help them to go into e-marketplace using cognitive AI to connect them to the right jobs and tasks. We also train traditional retail consultants who are used to very much helping retailers to improve their productivities and so on. So for the last 1 year, we are training more than 50 of them to go into digital. Meaning is that they are going to help retailers how to go on board on the digital transformations. And point number three, which is last year, we also changed the whole industry landscape. We actually merged both the retail industry and also the media industry together. So we work with Singapore Media Academy. We have a certification called New Media Professionals for the new retail digitainment. Is to actually train the bloggers, the artists into live streaming. We also help businesses by training service providers to help these businesses to go into multiple e-marketplace. So instead of taking one time to access the e-marketplace, these service providers, they have a platform to help businesses to access all the e-marketplace at one button. And of course, last but not least is that we have all the digital consultant trains, and now they are moving into the heartland retailers, helping them to go into digital transformation. So very fast about myself, I used to work for all this great company, and I'm also qualified with all these qualifications. But I'd like to highlight to you is that I'm currently is also a convener for the global ISO, right? So we are working on the global standard for e-commerce. Okay, so go very quickly, right? So what I want to highlight today is that we are into Industry 4.0 for many years. And I think today, a lot of us, businesses and so on, we are still struggling about how can we go into Industry 4.0. And we are not rocket scientists, right? We do not know about data science, we do not know about AI, robotics, and so on. So how can we live in this world? What I'm going to tell you today is that what you need to do is to change your mindset. Your mindset about Business 5.0 for creativities and innovations that coexist with Industry 4.0. So what do I mean by that? Basically, for the last 50 or 100 over years and so on, we are actually living in the arenas of the old electricity. But you can see that all the people thrive very well as a artist, as a chef, and even now today when we have webinars or going for the concert and so on, we did not really bother about where does the electricity come from, how does it been generated, and where is the oil and so on. So what I'm going to tell you is that today we are still struggling with the Industry 4.0. We are still struggling with the AI and so on. But for common people, even like myself, right? We are not data scientists. We are not into AI, robotics, and so on. What can we do in this world? What we can do in this world is that forget about all this because we are already in there. What we need to do is to be creative, to be innovative in the new electricity. This is what I'm going to share with you for the next 10, 15 minutes. So if you look at the world today, right? The world that we are living today is for the last 10 years is very much driven by information flow. And the few hundred years of capital flow creates a lot of great company. But for the last 10 years, once all these companies come in, Uber, Facebook, Alibaba, Airbnb come in, with their competencies in information flow, they have transformed the world, right? Basically, they hire less people, but their market capital actually is equivalent or even bigger than the traditional business models. So what do I mean by that? For traditional business models, they are very much into standardizations, productivities, and so on. So I just want to give examples. Let's say there's a Mac delivery driver. Most likely he's earning an income of $1,500 per month. But let's say if you move into like Uber or even in Singapore like Panda, Food Panda, Grabs, and so on, they can earn $3,000 to $10,000 per month. Or even for part-timers, it's only $800. How do I know about this? It's from my son. So my son actually, what he did is that last year he's having school holidays. He said that he wants to do part-time jobs. So I offer him to work in my companies, same as my wife and so on. He told me that I only work 2 hours a day and only work for 10 days. Then I say, what kind of job do you want to go to? He said, Food Panda delivery. And he, true enough, with that limited time, he's able to earn $800. How do you do it? It's basically that the new delivery services, they actually provide data for all the riders. So my son actually will study the data and so on, and then he will actually make sure himself is around that area that has the highest demand for the most expensive food and the most expensive restaurants. And he deliver in time. So basically he get bonus from the service company as well as tips from the customers. So this is a whole new world of changes. It's about your transformation of mindset from the old way. So if you look at the new world, right, moving forward is moving from internet of informations into internet of value moving forwards. So I recommend you to read these two books. One is the Intelligence Revolutions, Transforming Your Business with AI. And another book which I find very insightful is called Smart Business by Zheng Ming, X Strategies of Alibaba. So what he say that he say that in the past 20 years and so on, we are very much into the internet world of information, right? But moving forward, driven by 5G, bringing a landline of broadband into wireless, it is going to drive two dimensions. One is the cognitive AI. The other one is the network of IoT and blockchain. So you have heard so much about smart cities and so on. But moving on, the 5G basically will actually elevate the whole performance. And with that in mind, right, basically is that the technologies like cognitive AI is going to change the landscape as well. So if you look at the bottom of the pictures, this is the smart police car from Singapore. So basically, they are able to have all the data, informations, cognitive AI to help them to do a better jobs. And then in the middle of the pictures, this is not the police from Singapore, but it's from Beijing. So in Beijing, right, the police basically what they have is having goggles to identify everyone that pass by him, what's the risk from this person. Okay, so he can actually identify the high risk persons and have a better lookout for this person. In fact, actually last year when I visited Tencent, I'm impressed that when they implement the smart city solutions for Guangdong areas and so on, Shenzhen areas, right? They say that criminal rates actually reduced to 1 single digits. How do they do it? It's because all these police, they have information from the facial recognitions of the cameras all around the cities and so on. So basically, is that they already identify some of the high potential criminals, and with the cognitive AI, they can predict when they are going to execute their robbery, and then they know the routes, and finally they will actually catch them in the right spots and so on. And of course, we look at the right side, basically, is that all our individual biodata is all already into the internet. So it's how much we are able to support these people with a better management of health. And again, this is from Tencent. It's showing that actually they can do surgicals in the remote cities without the surgeons moving from one place to another one. And last but not least, this is a stadium. So basically, is that there's an investment from, I think, from Alibaba, even from Tencent. This company is called Magic Leap. They're able to actually provide a live performance. For example, there's a live concert and so on. You can imagine today the artist only can move from one city to another one, right? Moving forward, that live performance can be performed in all the stadiums, concert hall at one time. And even for those soccer match, for the soccer fans and so on, they can actually go to the stadiums, watch live over with the virtual videos and so on. Okay, very quickly, I would like to move on. Is that this concept of 5.0 is not from David Lee. In fact, this has been championed in Japan and also in China. So in Japan, this is from Mr. Nakanishi-san. He's the chairman of Japan Business Federation. He said that for the last many years and so on, we are very much into society of information industry and so on. With resource belong to a few, we have to work through the standardizations, and then what we need to focus on is productivities. But I say that today we are living in the world of society 5.0. Basically, it's all automated. So why do we still need to be more productive than the machines, than the robots? We need to be more innovative and creative, and to create values, right? So what do I mean by that is basically I will bring you your attentions from a few case studies. How can we move on from industry 4.0 mindsets to business 5.0 mindsets? So this is on the left-hand side. You can see that this is from my organizations. We belong to Nanyang Polytechnic. So this lecturer actually won an award for having a facial recognitions with the AI to read the student's face, whether they are concentrating, whether they are doing better studies in the different engagement in the online, right? But if you move on to the cafe and so on, right? Usually what cafe they do is that they just improve the productivities. So I just give examples of these coffee chains. Basically, they only have 2 employees. One is to make coffee. The other one is to clean the table. And where do they get the customers? Basically, they have facial recognitions, AI, and also smart apps. So any of these customers pass by, right? Basically, they'll capture the customer's face, and then they recognize them as one of the customers. They'll activate the apps in the phones, mobile phones, and then invite them to place a cup of coffee. So in fact, actually, I suggest to them basically that actually with the facial recognitions, they can tell as what Anson has mentioned, whether you're happy, not happy, and so on, right? So if you're happy face, like David, when he's happy, will have a mocha. So probably we will prompt the apps, David, we want to have a mocha. Or when I have an expressionless face, not so happy that day, most likely I will have an Earl Grey tea. So can you see that actually with the AI, you can be innovative and creative. Do not need to just go into productivities alone. You can actually try out new things. So next one I'd like to share with you an example is actually a supermarket, right? In Singapore, actually, we have a number of supermarkets going to automation and so on, very highly visible. But they are still very much into standardizations and productivities. I'd like to highlight to another one, which is the Alibaba Hema supermarkets. So for Hema supermarket, they have the same kind of a setup and so on, right? But what they did differently is that they're using AI to manage the whole business for individual customers. So let's say, for example, David Lee today, he's ordering the beef steaks and he ordered a chilled wine. For typical supermarkets, what they do is that they'll just pack everything together and then deliver, right? And most likely when they reach the customers, the chilled wine is basically they already lost the kind of expectation and so on. But what Herma Supermart did is that first, the AI will actually time the beef steaks, the time for the preparations and the cooking. And when they're ready, the AI will also manage the chill wine to pack together. In time, when they deliver to customers, they have the right exactly the kind of experience for the customers. So this is what you can do for Business 5.0 using AI. AI has already done all the productivities and so on. So you do not need to worry about this. So this is another example. Earlier, Dr. Ling Soon actually mentions about how the technology has changed with AI, with product identifications. So in these companies like Marlon Technologies, they are able to do scene recognitions, behaviors, analysis. So in fact, with all these from the customers, they can actually predict what's the fashions is going on, what's the trends is going on for smart manufacturing. So to produce the right products and the right numbers, quantities for the customers. Okay, so we also heard about the smart stores and so on, Amazons and so on. Today, basically, most of the stores are fully automated, but they are still running in a traditional way for standardizations and productivities. So I'd like to give you examples against, this is from Alibaba Crowds. That's actually, they actually have a solutions for Singapore as well, for smart store. So in the smart store, basically they have crowd shelf, they have videos, recognitions, recognize the customers, and then checkouts, automated checkouts. But most interestingly, they have an interactive screens. So in these interactive screens, right, which some people call magic mirror, for example, these ladies, when she walk past this store, right, instead of just see the typical models watching and so on, suddenly she see herself, the change of the persons, and then she see that she can actually buy this outfit. Likewise for David, he usually wear light blue shirts and dark pants and so on. One day, if I walk past with the facial recognition, they recognize me as a customers. They actually change my outfit in the magic mirror with a yellow shirt, green pants. Definitely, I will walk into the stores, right? So this is all about to be creative and innovative with the AI facial recognitions. And Alibaba actually acquired a number of, in fact, bought a big major physical mall. It's called In Time. So what they do is that they actually also using AI facial recognitions to engage with customers. But most important of all, they actually improve the experience to encourage the customers to do gamifications to earn discount points from the games and so on. So that will actually increase the customers' engagement. So I just show a short video of a few seconds. So basically, customers are invited to join the game. So they have avatar or even their face, put it in there. The customers will actually see themselves moving around if they want to. And they also can earn discount points from the stores, playing games with other customers and so on. So what's important in this is that it is very different from the traditional store giving discount points which nobody appreciates. This one is a hard-earned discount points from the games. So what I'm saying here is that, in fact, Smart Retail Store is here today. It is how creative we are in managing all these smart retail stores. So in fact, in the month of May this year, because of COVID-19, we bring 2,000 SME retailers going into online using smart mobile commerce store, right? Through the mobile phone, they can actually set up stores, and then they can actually engage the customers at the same time being found in the vicinities of the customers. But what is most interesting is that the mobile phone from the store owner, they can actually have all the data to know how well they're doing with customers. So in this case, what you are seeing here is that within the vicinities, they can actually see their customers, where do they move from one store to another one. So here we talk about data sharing, collaborations, and so on, right? So someone will actually ask, so about personal data protection and so on. So in this case, basically, personal data like your ID, your mobile phone number, all this is not being shared with the store owners. What being shared is the movement of their customers and the movement for these customers moving on to another stores. So over time, actually stores will know that the basket mix of the customers, and they can actually do collaboration together. They can even tell how long the customers stay in the stores and what do they do and so on. And on the right hand side, you can see that basically this is the overall view of a cities. Let's say you have a number of outlets and so on. You can actually manage the number of outlets within hours for campaigns. You can tell their campaigns whether it is successful, change the price within the minutes to move on to the next hour for another campaign. So what I'm talking about here is AI big data visualizations that's helping the business today. So the other thing is that we're also working with partners is DSP and DMP company, demand side platforms, and also data management platforms. So what this company do is that they actually collect data of all the people moving around the areas through the mobile phone, through the facial recognitions, captures, and so on. And over there, basically, with all these data, they are able to produce these data to help brands and business who want to hire them to manage the data at the same time to engage the customers. So you can see on the right-hand side that every day, they are able to manage 60 billion digital content engagements every day. Okay, so how do they actually do it? Basically, is that they have facial recognitions, they actually track mobile phone users and so on, right? And for example, brands like Nike, Adidas, Puma in Singapore, they can actually tell with the purchase pathway, the customers moving around, geolocations, and also the facial recognition is being recognized along the way and so on. They can tell Nike, Adidas, or Puma where their customers actually are. What? Because basically they know that who are the customers actually search for the products. So this is how AI is going to help you, and data with all this new up and coming agencies is going to help you to do collaboration at the same time to access to your customers. So with the AI, what can they do, right? Basically is that they are able to help brand, retailers, businesses to know exactly where is the transaction, what's the site conversions, and where are the publishers. So today, as Anson had mentioned, Minson had mentioned about live streaming and so on, right? Basically is that we are today Gen V, video generations. So all of us actually watch videos from Netflix everywhere, right? Basically, you can tell from the publishers that these customers, where do they actually have the greatest, most common views of the videos and so on. And of course, you can discover your audience, product associations with different brands, and even clustering of the audience. So we are no more into the traditional way of customer segmentations, no more. Because customer segmentation is based on the very static kind of survey. This one is live, real time, and they keep track of the customer views about the videos and so on. Right. I'd like to end with this word from this great man. So he's saying that no problem can be solved from the same consciousness that created it. We have already created the Industry 4.0. They say what we must learn to see is the world anew. So we need to relook and think about moving forwards, right, with the Industry 4.0s within our environments. How can we become digital innovator, storyteller, designer, entrepreneur, motivators, and cyber ethic officers, virtual culture officer, chatbot trainers to be active in the business 5.0, right? So I'd like to end with these notes that we need to change our mindsets moving from Industry 4.0s. So I'd like to pass it back to Oliver. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, David. In fact, you hit on a very critical point, mindset change. And I believe that is such an important message that we should be sharing with people, with retailers, because if retailers can understand that the world has moved around them, they also have to move together with them. following the customer, listening to the customer is key, and you have demonstrated to us in your presentation how retailers should reorganize themselves to doing that. Thank you very much again, David. We appreciate it.